Everyone talks about game box art, myself included, but I feel like no one is appreciating the beauty of game disc art. It makes sense why game disc art is underrated, right? Discs are usually hiding inside of a box or in a console in one of those disgusting case binders. Also, a lot of game disc art is pretty boring. A lot of games just throw the box art image on the disc and maybe move around the title a bit or make some small changes to get everything to fit. Probably the worst example of this is the entire GameCube library. For some reason, almost every single GameCube game released in America has this section at the bottom of the disc with the GameCube logo and some other details. This wasn't something that was exclusive to the GameCube though. The Wii U did it, the PlayStation 2 did it, every single Xbox did it, heck, the original Xbox went above and beyond and even took up more space with this little label that lets you know that this game has Xbox Live functionality. The PlayStation 3 started off okay with just a tiny little bar of text, but then it took the red pill and did it. The PS4 did it, the PS5 did it, heck, even the Sega Saturn did it. Do you really want to have something in common with the Sega Saturn? Nah, hey, maybe I'm just built different, but I'm pretty sure I don't need this big white label to tell me that Super Smash Bros. For Wii U is for the Wii U. Just do what the PlayStation 1 did and put the logo of the console on the side somewhere. Heck, Nintendo already knew how to do this because they did it with the Wii. It's perfect, it's not super obtrusive like a big label, and it lets little kids know what console this is for so they aren't jamming Mario Galaxy into their toaster. The first ever CD game console, the PC Engine CD-ROM got this right, so there isn't any excuse. The worst offender is definitely the GameCube though. The GameCube disc is already fun size, then you cover up almost half the disc with this label, and that's the thing, it's not even half, it's almost half. For some reason, it's just slightly off center. Like what, they just couldn't be bothered covering up the last 10% of the disc? If you're gonna have an annoying label thing, at least make it symmetrical. Now I gotta deal with my eyes bleeding and my OCD. Every once in a while, you get a game that had a different colored label. I wouldn't say these were rare. You definitely saw these more than you would see, say, a different color Game Boy Advance cartridge. If I had to give a rough estimate, maybe like 1 in every 4 GameCube games would have a different colored label. That is, unless you live in Japan. As always, Nintendo saves all the fun for our friends in the East because a ton of GameCube game discs had different unique colors. Look at the American Mario Sunshine disc versus the Japanese Mario Sunshine disc. In the American one, the clouds just awkwardly cut off. But in the Japanese one, they used a white label to make the label connect with the white clouds in the disc art. Oh, that's so cool. They had so much more fun with the Japanese colorways. But that's not all. Not only did Japan get way cooler colorways, sometimes they wouldn't even have a label. They got full artwork. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness has this crispy, spicy hot red and black art of Shadow Lugia. You can see it in the American version, but you don't get that full effect. Sometimes the Japanese artwork was just completely different. The American version of Mario Party 6 is just a bunch of images of the characters. For the Japanese version of Mario Party 6, they used the game's day and night mechanic as a part of the disc art. Similarly, the American Mario Party 5 is once again just the characters standing there. But the Japanese one has this smooth, baby blue background with a bullet bill flying out of the hole in the disc in a spiral pattern. It's so cool. This was one of my favorite types of game disc art, the ones that actually use the hole in the middle of the disc as a part of the artwork. In Metroid Prime Trilogy's disc art, they used the hole in the center of the disc as the barrel of Samus's arm cannon. To be fair, this is the same artwork they use for the box art, but it's one of the rare instances where the disc art actually uses it better. Rhythm Heaven Fever uses the disc hole as if it were the sun, casting its rays out from the center of the disc. Kirby's Epic Yarn is a classic. It has all of the game's worlds arranged in a circle around the disc hole, as if the disc hole was like the center of the planet. Fallout 3 makes the disc hole the center of the stock Please Stand By film thing. There were several games that made use of the disc's circular shape to great effect. Look at Deadpool. The disc art is pancakes on a plate. Although, we gotta give respect to Burger Hamburger Simulation because that game beat out Deadpool by over a decade and a half with the whole food disc art gimmick thing when it came out for the PS1. This game's disc art is the inside of a hamburger, and the second game, Burger 2 Hamburger Simulation, is the top of a hamburger. Super Smash Bros. Brawl makes this disc look like the Smash Ball logo, and it even adds its own special touch by letting you see the characters from the game inside the Smash Ball lines. Oh, so gorgeous. Jammer Lammy, a spin-off of the music series Parappa the Rapper, has its disc look like a vinyl record. Jet Set Radio did a similar thing. The Japanese version of Jammer Lammy has the characters standing on the disc hole, and even the European version has this cool rainbow vortex pattern coming from around the disc hole. Way of the Warrior for the Panasonic 3DO is this really striking looking yin and yang symbol with a blood red splatter on it that gives the symbol another swirly tomoe. Some games use the disc hole for family unfriendly reasons. Sonic CD for Windows has Sonic spinning in a ball. The Mario sports titles loved using the balls from their respective sports as the disc art. For some reason, no Mario Kart game has ever had the idea to make its disc art a wheel. I guess Nintendo didn't want to rip off Driver You Are the Wheelman on PS1. If there's one console that I think really did game disc art right, it's the Wii U. Yoshi's Woolly World has Yoshi and Poochie looking up out of the disc. It's super cute. I love this game's art style. Super Mario 3D World has Cat Mario staring up at the disc hole. New Super Mario Bros. U as well as Wind Waker HD do a similar thing to Kirby's Epic Yarn and Jammer Lammy with all of the characters on a disc hole planet. The Wonderful 101 has the characters all lined up in a really satisfying pattern. Splatoon also has a simple pattern that's just satisfying to look at. And you could throw Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE into that category too. Pikmin 3 has the Pikmin all positioned around the disc hole in this peaceful looking garden scene. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse has this multi-layered rainbow circle coming out of the disc hole, which makes it look like a cookie with frosting or maybe a jelly-filled donut. Back in the day when games would sometimes come on multiple discs, this allowed for some cool themes that made disc art that was not particularly amazing on its own look pretty in a set. Like how Resident Evil 2 has a disc for each of the two playable characters, Leon and Claire. The Japanese version of RE2, Biohazard 2, tries a little bit harder and makes Leon's disc a reverse colorway of Claire's color scheme. Gran Turismo 2's European disc art takes the red and blue colors of the Gran Turismo logo and uses each color separately for the two discs. As the storage capacity for disc media went up, this removed the need for games having multiple discs. Although fairly recently, The Last of Us Part 2 actually did come out on multiple discs. Half-Life's disc is really cool. It takes the rusted, grungy look of the logo and applies it to the disc, with the orange color acting as the rust that's blocking the new shiny reflective disc. The Japanese version of Gigawing on the Dreamcast just uses this beautiful purple color scheme, and the use of really distinct lines makes it seem like you're looking at the schematics of the ship or something. Persona 2 Innocent Sin on PS1 has the gnarly effect where they make it look like the disc is wrapped in barbed wire. The Wipeout games on PS1 and Sega Saturn had these cool minimalist patterns that, while simple, were pleasant yet still eye-catching. Another game called Internal Section has a similar striking minimalist design. As we move away from CDs and physical media as a whole, it seems as though game disc art is starting to become a lost art. I mean, I'm not too mad about it. Optical storage sucks. Disc lasers aren't super reliable, discs are magnets for smudges and scratches, not to mention they're incredibly fragile, and reading optical media is slow. Load times would be a nightmare on some games. Even back in the day, it was rare to even see your game discs unless you were someone who was constantly swapping between games, and even then it was only for a few seconds. Plus, I love having my entire library available at the touch of a button. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a small part of me that will miss the beauty of game disc art.